Welcome back to Downbelow. We're continuing our discussion of alternate campaign structures. My name is Steve.
I'm Ian.
And while yesterday we introduced the concept of the Rebels campaign, which is the polar opposite of the Enforcers campaign with some twists, today Ian is going to talk about some of the mechanical considerations, trackings, and twists that we're going to need if you are running such a campaign.
So the first thing that you're going to need to track is burnout. This is your zero base, positive or negative, track for the Rebel game.
As we talked about in the Enforcer game, the zero base positive and negative track, if it goes positive, that usually means good things for your goal. If it goes negative, that usually means bad things for your goal.
Or at least for the assumed goal of
Correct.
the campaign style.
The direction it moves, if you succeed, it moves in the directions the players wanted it to. If you fail, it moves in the direction the players don't want it to.
In the Rebels campaign style, positive on the burnout track is actually not positive for what the Rebels want, because the track is named something they don't want. So if you get +1 or +2 burnout, that means that you are closer to burning out. And if you get -1 or -2 burnout, that means you're further away from flaming out and ending up giving up or compromising your ideals. And again, this is a track about perception because only the players can decide when their characters give up, but the rest of that support network that they build can perceive them as closer to burning out and can perceive the cause as closer to burning out.
Similarly, this is somewhere where the GM can shine, because as the track reaches burnout, the GM can throw obstacles that would seem insurmountable. Perhaps something that took one success earlier in the campaign now takes 4 or 5 successes to get through because of how much strain the Rebels are under.
Because you can't just assume your organization will provide you this anymore. You now need to spend successes to get that equipment that previously your organization was able to provide just in the course of you using the success to do a thing.
Basically, while only the players can decide whether they've had enough, the system can make it seem that the struggle is in fact real.
Mm-hmm. And you can present them with situations, if the burnout track is getting pretty high in your opinion, where success doesn't feel very much like success, because you can tell them that success in the challenge just means not losing ground in a situation. So, for instance, they might be at fear of discovery from an enforcement organization that wants to shut them down, and they have to succeed at a whole bunch of challenges just to stop things from being taken away from them, not to make progress towards their goals. Whereas if they have done some successful things and their burnout track is closer to 0 or negative, then they might have an easy time getting some things done. So, track number 2. This is your objective tracker. This, for Rebels game, should start at 0. And this is about your progress towards change.
Yep.
Decide before the campaign starts into this campaign style how much they need to build up to make changes. Maybe every 10 points something will seem different. This can easily be related to the burnout track. Get a certain amount towards goals, burnout goes down a little bit because progress can be seen being made. You don't have to scale this the same for every step.
Yep.
It can easily be a compounding. The first step takes 1, then 2, then 4, or whatever scale you want.
As we start writing source material for this campaign style, we'll start giving you actual numbers. Right now, it's kind of a gut feeling thing.
But you should decide on a scale and keep it consistent over the campaign segment that you're doing, and you should decide an upper limit.
Yep.
There should be certain things that can't be changed, and there should be only so far that you can actually push within the scope of the campaign.
Was there a third track this time around?
There's actually potentially more than 2 or 3 tracks. I will mention one more type of track, and that is the resources tracks, which you should keep for each organization opposing the rebels, as well as for the player's rebel organization themselves. And just keep track of when things add or subtract to the resources for or against the players. And if you want to be very detailed, you can do separate resources tracks. You can track money, contacts, and other things separately, especially for the player's rebel organization, where you want to have a lot of juicy details to call on. So let's close out this time by talking about the kinds of characters mechanically that you would have in a Rebels game. You want players to have skills at hiding their tracks.
Yep.
And you want players to avoid having deep ties for more than 1 or maybe 2 in a larger group of players of their characters to the organizations they oppose.
Now,
because that would make it A, a little bit unlikely, B, a little bit too easy. They shouldn't have the insider access to change things themselves on a large scale.
Briefly on that note, this is not something you have to start off with necessarily. Players can start off however they will, and this is an excellent example for change over the course of the game. A character that does not start off with skills hiding their tracks should quickly develop them as they are forced to. So your accountant who turns rebel because they're dissatisfied with the way society treats the bean pushers and the paper counters
For one thing, they start using their computer skills in a new way they didn't realize they would.
They don't have the skills to actually be a dedicated underground revolutionary, but if they turn into one, they will either develop those skills quickly or soon fail as a revolutionary.
And this is where at the end of a certain number of game sessions or a story arc or whenever it seems appropriate to the GM, you can change out traits if the player doesn't feel that they want to use the old trait and they want their character to develop the new trait.
And there we have it.
So we will introduce to you yet another new campaign style in the next episode. Until then, thanks for falling through the cracks.